Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today with a very, very specific feeling.
Okay.
I think everyone listening has probably felt it. Maybe you're even feeling it right now. It's not sadness, not really. And it's not exactly anxiety either. It's this weird, heavy tension right in your chest. And it happens when you're doing well. You know, maybe you just got a promotion or you started a new healthy habit, something you're proud of, and instead of pure joy, you feel guilty.
Yes, that. It's almost like a form of imposter syndrome, but it's not about your skills. It's directed at your own past.
Exactly. You feel like an imposter to your former self.
It feels like you're leaving something or someone behind that you swore you never would.
You've put it perfectly. It's like you're wearing a shoe that is 2 sizes too small. You know it doesn't fit anymore. You can feel the blister forming on your heel. You know you absolutely cannot walk another mile in it.
But taking it off feels wrong.
It feels like a betrayal. That's the word. It feels like you're abandoning the person who bought you those shoes, or maybe the person you were when you first put them on and they fit perfectly.
And that word betrayal, that's the key, isn't it? That is the emotion that just stops people dead in their tracks. It paralyzes them.
It does.
We feel that if we change, even if it's for the better, even if it's life-saving change, we are somehow breaking a silent vow we made to the people around us, or, and this is the tricky part, to the version of ourselves that existed 5-10 years ago.
And that is exactly what brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We are going to look that guilt right in the eye. We're going to unpack that friction, that discomfort that comes with personal progress.
Because we love to talk about growth, culturally.
We're obsessed with it.
But we only talk about the highlight reel, the shiny parts, the new job title, the marathon medal, the beautiful wedding photos. We almost never talk about the grief and the guilt and the sheer awkwardness of shedding an old skin.
Which is precisely why the source material we're digging into today is so, so important. We are looking at a text called The Necessity of Evolution.
And can we just pause on that title for a second before we even get into the meat of it?
Please.
It isn't called the option of evolution. It isn't, the perks of evolution.
Right.
It is the necessity.
That is a heavy hitter right out of the gate. Necessity. It implies you don't really have a choice in the matter. It's almost fatalistic. Like, if you want to survive, you have to do this very unpleasant thing.
Precisely. And the core text, it gives us this roadmap that is, on the surface, deceptively simple. But when you actually start to apply it to the messy reality of your own life, it changes absolutely everything.
So what's the roadmap?
The source text breaks it down into 3 distinct categories of things that we are allowed, and this is the important part, actually required, to outgrow.
Okay.
People, places, and plans.
People, places, and plans. The 3 Ps. We are definitely going to spend a lot of time on each of those. But before we do, there's a central thesis statement in the source material that really, it serves as the anchor for our entire hour today.
I think I know the line you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. It's a line that when I first read it, I actually had to put the paper down and just stare at the wall for a minute.
Let's hear it.
The line is, growth isn't betrayal, it's biology.
Growth isn't betrayal, it's biology. That's the hook. That is the entire lens through which we have to view everything today.
It reframes the whole thing.
It completely reframes it, because if we can genuinely shift our understanding of our own change from a moral failure, which is what betrayal feels like, to a natural imperative, which is what biology is, then that guilt, that paralysis, it starts to dissolve.
But, okay, let's be real for a second. That sounds great on a coffee mug.
Right.
It's just biology, babe. But in practice, when you're sitting across from a friend you've known for 20 years and you have nothing to say to each other, it feels deeply, deeply personal.
It does.
So I want to start by challenging this title, this idea of the necessity of evolution. Why does the author use the word evolution and not just change? I mean, we use those words interchangeably all the time. I'm changing my hair. I'm evolving my style. Is there really a difference, or are we just splitting hairs here?
Oh, there is a massive difference. And this isn't just semantics or wordplay. It is a fundamental distinction in how we operate as living things.
Okay, convince me.
Change is neutral. It's often random. The weather changes. Your mood changes. You might change your mind about what you want for dinner.
Right, it just happens.
It can happen to you without your consent. And crucially, it doesn't necessarily lead anywhere better. It's just a variation in state.
Yeah.
I mean, entropy is change. things falling apart, decaying. That's a form of change.
So getting laid off is change. Sudden illness is change. It's just a different state than before, not necessarily a better one.
Exactly. But evolution, the word itself, it implies directional movement. It implies adaptation. In biology, evolution is the process by which an organism develops capabilities to survive and thrive in a new or changing environment.
So it's strategic.
It is strategic, even if it's happening on an unconscious cellular level. It is a response to pressure that results in a more capable, more resilient organism.
Okay, so change is just different, but evolution is better adapted.
Precisely. And when the source says the necessity of evolution, it's making a very bold argument. It's arguing that staying the same isn't just stagnant. It's not neutral. It's actually counterproductive. It's counter to the natural order of life.
Meaning if you don't evolve.
If an organism refuses to evolve when its environment shifts, it doesn't just stay the same. It can't. It goes extinct.
Wow. Okay, that really puts the stakes on the table. We are not just talking about finding yourself or, living your best life in a sort of fluffy, inspirational way.
Okay.
We're talking about survival.
We're talking about survival. But I can see the skepticism. This biological imperative idea can feel a little cold.
It does. I mean, we're humans. We have these complex brains and emotions and social contracts and loyalties. Can we really reduce our life choices, these huge gut-wrenching decisions, down to its biology?
I think we have to, or at least we have to start there. Because if we don't, we get stuck. We drown in the morality of it all.
What do you mean by the morality of it?
In our interpersonal relationships, we assign moral weight to consistency. We treat it like a virtue. Think about how we use the phrase, "you've changed." It's almost always an accusation.
Yeah, it's never a compliment. No one ever says, wow, you've changed. You seem so much happier, more fulfilled. How dare you?
Exactly. It's an accusation. It means you broke a contract. I liked you better when you were the party guy. I liked you better when you were quiet and didn't have opinions. We view consistency as a sign of loyalty and character.
But you're saying if we look at it through the lens of biology.
If we look at it through that lens, change is amoral. It's not good or bad. It is simply a cellular, psychological, and inevitable process. I mean, think about the cells in your body. You are physically not the same person you were 7 years ago. Most of your cells have been replaced.
Right, the old ship of Theseus paradox. If you replace every single plank on a ship over time, is it still the same ship at the end?
And the biological answer is a hard no. You're not the same ship. You have literally molted.
Molted.
And I want to stick with that image of molting because the source material brings up this analogy of crustaceans, crabs, lobsters outgrowing their shells. And I think we gloss over this image too quickly in pop culture.
We do. We think, oh, the crab gets a bigger house. How nice for him.
Exactly. Good for you, little crab. But have you ever actually looked at the biology of what molting entails?
I can't say I'm an expert on lobster puberty, no.
It is a violent, dangerous, and incredibly vulnerable process. Just really look at a lobster. It lives inside a rigid shell. This shell protects it from predators. It's its home, its safety, its identity. It defines its entire boundary with the outside world.
But the animal inside is soft, and it's growing.
The animal inside is soft, squishy, and crucially, it is constantly growing. The shell is not. It's rigid.
So eventually the animal becomes too big for its container. It literally starts getting squeezed.
Yes. The pressure builds and builds. It becomes uncomfortable, then painful, then intolerable. Now, at this point, the crab has a choice. It can try to stay in the shell to be safe. You can say, this shell has served me so well, I'm going to be loyal to it.
What happens then?
The crab will literally be crushed to death by its own growth. It will suffocate. It cannot survive.
So its own life force becomes the thing that kills it if it doesn't move.
Precisely. Or it can undergo the brutal process of casting off the shell. But here's the part we always forget. When a crab sheds the shell, it doesn't immediately have a new hard shell ready to go underneath.
Right. Of course. It's soft. It's totally exposed.
It is incredibly vulnerable. A soft-shell crab is a delicacy for a reason. It has no defenses. In nature, when a crab molts, it has to find a dark place, hide under a rock for days or even weeks. It is terrified. It is weak. It is completely exposed to predators.
And that is why growth feels so terrible for us.
That's it. We leave the old job, the old shell, and we haven't quite figured out the new career path yet. We're in that soft, mushy, naked phase. We end the long-term relationship, and we're just alone for a while. And we interpret that vulnerability, that terror, as I made a huge mistake.
That is, wow. That hits home so hard. We feel that exposure, and the immediate reaction is, oh no, I'm unsafe, this feels awful, I should have just stayed in the shell.
But the biology dictates that the vulnerability is the only pathway to getting the new, bigger shell that actually fits.
The discomfort isn't a sign that you're failing.
The discomfort is a sign that you are soft, which means you are actively growing. It is the necessary, unavoidable phase between who you were and who you are becoming.
And what about the old shell? I think we tend to demonize our past.
That's our guilt talking. We feel like we have to hate the old job or the old town or the old relationship to justify leaving it.
You have to make it the villain.
Right. But the crab doesn't hate its old shell. It can't. The shell was great. It did its job perfectly. It protected the crab when it was smaller and more vulnerable. But the shell is now obsolete.
Obsolete, not evil. I really like that distinction.
And it's a crucial distinction. The shell served its purpose for a season. And now that season is over, no blame, no anger. Just thank you for your service. I have to go now.
And this reframes the guilt entirely. So when you ask, why does it feel so bad to grow? It's because we're confusing growing pains with inflicting pain.
Explain that.
We feel the friction of our own expansion, and we immediately think we are hurting other people or hurting our past selves. But biologically, that pain is just the signal that the process is working. The discomfort is the evidence of life.
Right. If you aren't feeling that friction, that squeeze, you likely aren't growing. You're just existing, maybe even stagnating.
Okay, so we've established that this is a biological necessity. We've established that the pain is actually part of the process, not a sign of failure. But let's bring the messy humans back into the room.
Let's do it.
Because unlike the crab, our shells are often made of other people. They're made of relationships and promises and shared histories. Which brings us to the core conflict the source identifies. Growth isn't betrayal, but be honest with me. Doesn't it feel like betrayal?
It absolutely feels like betrayal. And it feels that way because of how we construct our identity in relation to other people.
We see ourselves through their eyes.
We do, and we view our past selves as people we owe a debt to. We look at who we were 5 years ago, the choices we made, the people we chose to surround ourselves with, and we feel like we signed a contract in invisible ink. I will be this person for you forever.
And society reinforces this feeling at every turn.
Oh, absolutely. The stay the same expectation. It's this unspoken social contract that basically says, I will remain predictable for you so that you can remain comfortable around me. Precisely. Predictability is safety. For our ancient ancestors, if someone in the tribe started acting erratically or differently, that was a major risk to the entire group's survival.
They were a liability.
A huge liability. So we are neurologically wired to crave consistency in our peers. It calms our nervous system. So when you change, you become unpredictable to the people around you. And that makes them feel unsafe on a very primal subconscious level.
And so they react.
They react. They might say, you've changed, or you think you're better than us now, or why don't you come out drinking with us on Fridays anymore? They are trying to pull you back into the predictable box.
Man, those comments, they sting. They feel like an indictment, like we're being bad people, bad friends, bad children.
But what the source is arguing, and I think this is so powerful, is that loyalty to your past is often in direct, irreconcilable conflict with loyalty to your future.
You can't serve two masters.
You cannot. You cannot simultaneously be the person you were and the person you are becoming. It is physically and psychologically impossible to be the caterpillar and the butterfly at the same time.
The caterpillar has to dissolve.
It has to literally liquidate itself inside the chrysalis to become the butterfly. It's a messy, transformative process, not a simple costume change.
Liquidate the caterpillar. That's a violent image, but it's so accurate.
It is. And the betrayal that people feel isn't actually an attack on them. It might feel like it to them, sure. But let's look at it this way. When a child's feet grow and they outgrow their shoes, are they betraying the shoes?
No, of course not.
Are they angry at the shoes for no longer fitting? No, they just have bigger feet now. The betrayal is usually a narrative projected by those who are not evolving.
Wow. Say more about that.
If I am standing still and you start jogging away from me, the distance between us grows. I have two choices. I can see your movement as a betrayal, blame you for leaving me behind.
Which is the easier option.
It's much easier. Because it absolves me of the responsibility to look at my own feet and wonder if maybe I should start moving too. Or I can be inspired and start jogging myself. But it's often emotionally simpler to cast you as the villain.
That is the hard pill to swallow right there. So my evolution is not an act of aggression against my past.
It is an act of service to your future self.
But that doesn't make the dinner table conversation with your family any easier when you tell them you're changing careers for the third time.
No, it doesn't make it easy, but it does make it clear. And clarity helps you stand your ground without being defensive or apologetic.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. The source breaks this down into those 3 categories: people, places, and plans. Let's start with the big one, the one that keeps people up at night. The people category. The text says, quote, "You're allowed to outgrow people."
This is, without a doubt, the most emotionally charged category. Places don't have feelings. Plans don't cry when you abandon them.
But people do.
People do. And this is where we have to be incredibly careful, because the current internet culture has created this very aggressive narrative of cut everyone off. If they don't serve your highest self, delete them from your life.
Yes, the whole main character energy thing where everyone else is just an NPC in your story that you can just delete. I hate that. It feels so transactional and cold.
It is transactional, and it's deeply dehumanizing. The source text is not advocating for that at all.
Yeah.
We have to make a really clear distinction between cutting people off and outgrowing them.
So what's the difference?
Cutting someone off is active. It's surgery. It's usually a direct response to toxicity, abuse, or harm. It's saying, your behavior is bad for me, so I am actively removing you from my life for my own protection.
Yeah.
And that is a completely valid and necessary tool. But that's not what we're discussing here.
So what is outgrowing in this context?
Outgrowing is passive. It's organic. It's often gradual. It is simply the quiet realization that the energetic connection that once held you together no longer exists because one or both of you has changed shape.
You don't push them away.
You don't necessarily push the person away. You simply expand until you no longer fit in the same conversational or emotional space with them. Think about it like a Venn diagram.
Okay, I'm picturing it. 2 overlapping circles.
When you first meet a friend, usually your circles overlap quite significantly. You have a shared context. It's powerful. We are friends because we sit next to each other in biology class. Or we are friends because we both work at this terrible restaurant and hate our boss.
Right, trauma bonding at the bad job. We've all been there. You think you're absolute soulmates because you complain about the same things.
Yeah, exactly. Or we are friends because we're both single and we spend our weekends going out to bars. That shared context is the overlap in the Venn diagram. The bond is situational.
And then the situation changes.
The situation always changes. One of you quits the terrible job, one of you decides to stop drinking, one of you gets married and starts a family while the other is still single. The context shifts. And the circles naturally start to pull apart. The overlap shrinks.
And suddenly you realize that without that shared context, without the shared complaint or the shared activity, there isn't actually that much connective tissue holding the friendship together anymore.
And that's where the guilt floods in.
Oh, massively. Because we feel like we should keep the friendship alive, purely based on history. But we've been friends for 10 years, we went to high school together. It feels like you're erasing your own history to let that friendship fade.
It's the sunk cost fallacy applied to human relationships. I've invested 10 years of my life into this friendship. I can't just walk away now. But here is a provocative thought that the source text implies.
I'm ready.
Keeping a relationship that no longer fits is actually a form of dishonesty.
Ooh, that's a strong word. Dishonesty. I mean, how am I being dishonest by being loyal to a friend?
Think about it. If you are going to lunch with old friends who haven't changed, and you have to consciously dim your own light or suppress your new interests or pretend to laugh at the same old jokes you no longer find funny just to keep the peace.
Which is something many of us do.
You are lying to them.
Yeah.
You are presenting a hologram of your past self. You aren't giving them the real you. You are giving them a performance of who you used to be 5 years ago. That isn't respect. It's actually kind of patronizing.
Wow, when you put it that way.
What?
Yeah. It's condescending. It's like you're saying, I don't trust you enough to handle the person I've become, so I'll just give you this comfortable, familiar cardboard cutout instead.
Exactly. You are robbing them of the opportunity to know the real you, and you are robbing yourself of the integrity of being one whole person. It is exhausting to maintain multiple holograms for different people.
It is. It's so draining. You come home from those hangouts feeling more tired than when you left. That's the sign, isn't it?
That exhaustion is the signal. That is your body telling you this shoe does not fit anymore. And if we go back to the biological thing, we can look at it as evolutionary divergence.
Okay.
In nature, sometimes a common ancestor species evolves into 2 completely different directions. One species adapts to life in the water, another adapts to life in the trees.
And neither one is better than the other.
Not at all. The squirrel isn't morally superior to the fish. They just occupy different ecosystems now. They've adapted to different pressures and opportunities.
I love that frame because so often when we feel ourselves outgrowing people, there's this secret, ugly arrogance that can creep in. I'm evolving and they are stuck. I'm doing the work and they are not.
That is the ego talking, trying to justify the distance. The biological reality is just adaptation. You have adapted to a new environment. Maybe that's a sober life. Maybe that's an ambitious new career. Maybe it's a deep spiritual path. They are perfectly adapted to their current environment.
So trying to force them to come with you?
It's like trying to force a fish to climb a tree. It's not just impossible, it's cruel to the fish.
And you shouldn't try to stay underwater with the fish if you've developed lungs.
Correct. True respect in this framework is acknowledging the divergence. It's being able to say, I see you, I love and honor our shared history, but I can no longer survive or thrive in your ecosystem.
And then what? Do you have to have a dramatic friendship breakup?
I don't think so, not usually. You let the drift happen, you stop forcing the overlap, you stop fighting the current that is pulling you apart, you let the distance form naturally.
And that creates a lot of empty space. And that leads us perfectly into the second P, because often when we outgrow the people, we also outgrow the environments they inhabit. Let's talk about places. You're allowed to outgrow places.
Now, obviously, this means geography, moving to a new city, leaving your small hometown. But I really want us to expand this definition. What is a place, really, in this context?
I mean, my mind immediately goes to workplaces. That's a huge one. But also maybe digital spaces, social media groups, or even a specific role you play in your family.
Yes, exactly. A place is any container that houses you for a period of time. It could be a literal city or a house.
Yeah.
But it can absolutely be a workplace. It can be a gym you've gone to for years. It can be a digital community. It can be a comfort zone, a psychological place where you feel safe but completely stagnant.
Let's talk about the workplace as a container. I think this is so relatable. You get that first job out of college, and it's amazing. It's the perfect container for you at 22. You learn so much.
It fits perfectly.
But then you're 28 and you're miserable. The work is no longer challenging, the culture feels stale, but you stay because, well, it was so good to you for so long, you feel like you owe the company your loyalty?
That is the loyalty trap.
Yeah.
An environment is often a container built for a specific stage of growth. Think of it like a pot for a plant. When you're just a little seedling, a small clay pot is perfect. It provides the right amount of soil, protection, and stability.
It's nurturing.
It's incredibly nurturing. But if that seedling is destined to grow into a massive oak tree, that small pot eventually becomes a cage.
The roots start to wrap around themselves. I think the term is root-bound.
Yes, exactly. If a plant becomes root-bound, its own roots literally start to strangle each other because they have nowhere else to go. The very thing that nurtured it, the pot, is now slowly killing it.
And it's not because the pot became evil.
Not at all. The pot is a great pot. It's just that the pot stayed the same size and you didn't.
I feel that in my chest, that feeling of being constricted, root-bound in a job or a town. But why do we cling to these places so tightly? Is it just nostalgia, or is it pure fear?
I think it's the safety versus growth paradox. Biologically, we have two competing drives that are always at war. We have the drive to explore. That's the evolutionary drive. We need to find new resources, new territory.
And the other drive.
The other is the classic mammal drive for safety, familiarity, and the conservation of energy. The known is always perceived as safer by our brain than the unknown, even if the known is making us miserable.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
That's the ancient wisdom of the safety drive. We stay in the town we hate because at least we know where the grocery store is. We stay in the job that's crushing our soul because we know how to use the printer and we know everyone's name.
Our brain interprets unknown as potential tiger in the bushes.
Exactly. So leaving a place, any kind of container, requires you to consciously override that primal safety alarm that's screaming at you. It requires you to willingly step into the wilderness. And the source material reminds us of something really beautiful here.
What's that?
A place can be a character in your past story without having to be the setting for your future story.
Oh, I like that. It's a setting. And the scene has ended. It's time for a new location.
You can look back at your high school or your first apartment or that dive bar you or your friends loved with immense fondness and gratitude. You can say, thank you, you were exactly what I needed then.
And in the same breath.
And simultaneously say, you cannot house the person I am now. There's no room for me here anymore.
It's okay to graduate. I mean, you don't hang out in your old kindergarten classroom when you're 30 years old. That would be weird.
It would be very weird.
But we try to do that emotionally and psychologically with other phases of our life. We try to live inside a museum of our past.
We do. We try to curate the museum and then live in one of the exhibits. But you cannot make new history inside a museum. You can only observe what's already happened. If you want to make new history, you have to leave the building.
You can't make history in a museum. That is going on a sticky note on my monitor for sure. Okay, let's tackle the third P. And this one. This one might be the trickiest because it is purely internal. It's not about leaving a friend or a city. It's about leaving a version of yourself. Let's talk about plans. You're allowed to outgrow plans.
This is the source of the true internal identity crisis. Outgrowing people and places is external. There are logistics, sure, but the shift is outside of you. Outgrowing a plan requires you to admit something very difficult to yourself.
Which is?
I was wrong. Or at the very least, what I wanted then is not what I want now. And the human ego hates admitting that.
This is the person who spent 4 years in law school, passed the bar, has a mountain of student debt, and realizes on day one at the firm that they absolutely hate being a lawyer.
Yes. But the plan was, be lawyer. They told everyone for years they were going to be a lawyer. Their grandma is so proud that they're a lawyer. Their whole identity is wrapped up in that plan.
And this is where that sunk cost fallacy becomes absolutely lethal.
It's at its most dangerous here. Sunk cost is that economic principle that says we continue a behavior simply as a result of our previously invested resources. Time, money, effort. I can't quit now. I've already put in 10 years. I can't close this failing business. I invested my life savings into it.
But when you apply that to your own life, your own evolution.
Sticking to a plan just because you made it years ago is the absolute opposite of evolution. It is the definition of stagnation. It's being loyal to a ghost.
But it feels like failure. That's the emotional trap. If I change the plan, it means I failed at the original plan. If I get divorced, I failed at the marriage plan. If I quit my corporate job to become a baker, I failed the career plan my parents were so proud of.
No, you didn't fail. You evolved. You successfully completed the part of the journey that taught you that the plan was wrong for you.
Let's call it the evolution of ambition.
The evolution of ambition. I like that.
The goals you set when you were 20 years old were based on the data you had at 20. They were based on who you were then, what you valued then, and crucially, what you knew about the world and yourself then.
Which was very little.
Very little. You are now 30 or 40 or 50. You have a decade of new data. You have a completely new operating system in your brain. Why on earth would you try to run outdated software designed for your old hardware?
Logically, that makes perfect sense. But emotionally, we tie so much of our self-worth to our consistency. I'm a person who follows through. We treat our goals like they're sacred vows.
And following through is a virtue, absolutely. But following through on a plan that is leading you off a cliff, that's not a virtue, that's just foolishness. A plan is a vehicle. That is the metaphor I want you to visualize.
Okay, a plan is a vehicle, a car. A plan is a car. You get in the car to go to a destination. Let's say the destination's happiness or financial security or a sense of purpose.
So the car could be your career path or your 5-year life plan.
Right. Now imagine you're driving that car and halfway to your destination, the car breaks down completely. Or maybe you realize the GPS is malfunctioning and the car is actually driving you toward a swamp you don't want to go to.
Or you just realize the destination has changed. You don't want to go to the bustling city anymore. You've realized you're a person who wants to go to the quiet mountains.
Exactly. In any of those rational scenarios, what would you do?
You would get out of the car, you'd abandon it and find a new vehicle or start walking toward the mountains.
Of course. But what most of us do with our life plans is this. The car breaks down, or it's headed toward the swamp, and we get out, hoist the entire car onto our back, and keep walking, carrying the dead weight of the broken plan, because we promised ourselves we would drive that specific car to the finish line.
That is such a painful and accurate visual. Carrying the car, we do that.
You do not serve the plan. The plan is supposed to serve you. If the vehicle no longer takes you where you need to go, you abandon the vehicle. That is not failure. That is smart, efficient travel.
So if your plan was to be married with 2 kids and a white picket fence by age 25, and you're 30 and single and just starting a new business you love, you didn't fail the plan.
You just outgrew the vehicle. The 25-year-old who made that plan had no idea who the incredible 30-year-old you would become. You are honoring your actual life by updating the map, not by blindly following a GPS that hasn't been updated in a decade.
It's weirdly disrespectful to your current self to let your past self call all the shots.
It is.
It's like letting a teenager decide your retirement strategy.
It is exactly that. You have to learn to trust your current self more than your past self. Your past self had less information and less experience. Why are they still the CEO of your life?
That's a question to sit with. So we've covered people, places, and plans. We've framed it all as biological necessity. We've talked about the crab, the root-bound plant, the broken-down car. But now we have to get to the practical application.
The how?
The how. Because knowing all of this is true doesn't magically make it easy to act on.
Right.
And the source material ends with a really crucial section on permission. It starts with that very simple phrase, "You're allowed."
You're allowed. It sounds so simple, but it begs a huge question. Who is allowing you? Who is the authority? Who holds the permission stamp?
Right, because I think we're always waiting for someone else to give it to us. Is it my mom? Is it my boss? Is it society? I feel like we're always secretly waiting for someone to tap us on the shoulder and whisper, okay, you can stop being a lawyer now. You have my permission.
And the harsh, liberating truth is that tap is never coming. Never. Society wants you to be predictable. Your family, with the best of intentions, often wants you to be consistent because it stabilizes the family dynamic. Your old friends want you to be the person they've always known because it validates their own choices not to change. So if you're waiting for them to hand you a permission slip to outgrow them, you will be waiting forever.
So the permission has to be self-granted. It has to come from inside, which is, frankly, terrifying.
It must be an act of self-authorization. You have to be the one to sign the slip. You have to look in the mirror and say, I allow myself to be different today than I was yesterday. And yes, that is terrifying because it means you are taking full 100% responsibility for your life.
You can't blame anyone else.
You can no longer blame circumstance or obligation or what people expect of me. You are choosing. You are at the helm.
Okay, so let's say I do it. I sign my own permission slip. I decide I'm going to move or quit the job or let that friendship drift. How do I do this without being a total jerk? How do we honor our own growth while still respecting the people we might be leaving behind?
We go right back to the beginning. We refer back to the biology. Nature is efficient. It doesn't hold grudges. It doesn't feel guilt. A snake doesn't hate its old skin. It just leaves it behind and moves on.
So be more like the snake.
Be more like the snake. To do this respectfully, you simply stop apologizing for your own nature. And when you stop apologizing for your growth, you stop being defensive. And when you stop being defensive, you can finally be truly kind.
Wait, unpack that connection for me. When you stop apologizing, you can be kind. I always thought apologizing is the kind thing to do.
Think about it from the other side. When you feel guilty, when you feel deep down like you are betraying someone by changing, you act weird around them. You act from a place of fear.
That's true.
You might avoid their calls because you feel too guilty to talk, so you end up ghosting them, which is incredibly cruel. Or you might become snappy and critical of them because subconsciously you're trying to build a case to justify why you're leaving. You nitpick their flaws to make them the villain so you don't have to be.
Oh, that's the defensive breakup. I'm not leaving because I've changed. I'm leaving because you chew your food too loudly. We invent external reasons to make it their fault.
Exactly. And all of that drama, all of that cruelty is created by your own unresolved guilt. But if you can truly accept, I have outgrown this situation, it is biology, it is a neutral fact, then you can show up with clean, clear energy.
What does that look like in practice?
It means you can say, I'm not going to be able to come to that weekly event anymore without a 5-paragraph email full of flimsy excuses. You can say, I've decided to change careers without desperately seeking their validation or approval. You can look at your old friend with genuine warmth and love for the history you share, because you don't need them to change for you to feel okay about your own choices.
That clarity is a form of kindness. It stops the muddy waters. It stops sending mixed signals that just confuse and hurt people in the long run.
And this is the key. Respecting others means letting them be who they are, even if who they are is someone who doesn't understand or approve of your growth, while simultaneously refusing to shrink yourself to match them.
You don't demand that they understand you.
That's it. That's huge. You release them from the obligation of understanding you, because so often we want to drag people along on our journey and force them to get it. See why I'm doing this? Please validate me. Tell me I'm okay. That's just your own insecurity talking. If you know deep in your bones that it's biology, you don't need to hold a press conference to prove it. A crab doesn't send out a newsletter to explain why it's molting.
It just molts.
It just molts. It does what it needs to do to survive.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. This has been a lot. Let's try to summarize this entire mission before we sign off.
Let's do it. We started with that core feeling, that tension, that guilt you feel when you're growing, and reframed it. It's not a mistake. It's a signal. It's the sound of the shell cracking. It's a growing pain.
And we looked at the 3 pillars from the source text. People who we naturally outgrow when our shared contexts change. Places, which are the containers, jobs, towns, roles that we can become root-bound in. And plans, which are the old vehicles we have to be willing to abandon when they no longer serve our true destination.
And guiding us through all of that were the 2 core truths from that anchor statement. 1, growth is biology. It is inevitable, it's amoral, and it is absolutely necessary for our survival.
And 2, growth is not betrayal. It is not an act of aggression against the past. It is an act of service and responsibility to the future.
That is the essence of it. The guilt you feel is just the sensation of your own life force pushing against old boundaries. It is not a moral indictment. It is simply the sound of you making room for who you are becoming.
This has been such a refreshing and honestly a relieving reframe. I feel like I can breathe a little bit deeper. I really hope the listeners feel that too. Before we go, as always, leave us with that final provocative thought. Something for all of us to carry as we look at our own 2 small shoes.
We spend so much of our energy looking backward, worrying about what we owe to our history. We worry about honoring the past, being loyal to the people we were. But I want to flip the entire orientation.
Okay.
If you stopped viewing your history as a debt you have to repay, and instead started viewing your future as a responsibility you have to fulfill, what is the very first thing you would let go of today?
Viewing your future as a responsibility you have to fulfill. That changes the whole game. Thank you for that. And thank you, everyone, for diving deep with us. Go fulfill that responsibility. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.